Something strange is going on with the Boston Bruins as we have another update regarding the coaching search here from Elliot Friedman on if Marco Sturm will or will not be the coach of the Boston Bruins. We're going to be breaking down the updates here on this, going over the new information we have, as well as a very interesting update regarding the Bruins trade that a lot of teams are starting to get in on a very specific player from the Minnesota Wild. We're going to be breaking all this down here in this video, going over these recent reports and going over this very confusing coaching search, where we stand right now on that here in this video. Very quickly before we jump into it, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. As I mentioned in last night's video, very late, we got a lot of Bruins news to cover, and this coaching situation keeps on getting crazier. We'll have all the updates here as they come out, and once again, 70% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. But let's get straight into this, starting off here with what we had yesterday from Cam Robinson last night at 11:56 Newfoundland time. So was a bit late for me here, and the video was up around 3. I was waiting to see if we got any more information, and we did not. But Cam Robinson tweeted this out from Elite Prospects, hearing Marco Sturm is set to become the next Boston Bruins head coach. Now, we were looking at this, as you see, 222,000 people saw that the time of the screenshot. It is definitely more by now. And everybody thought that this was a done deal. The deal was sealed. We were waiting for either the Bruins themselves, Elliot Friedman, Chris Johnson, Kevin Weeks, the guys who normally know before just about everybody else to tweet something out. Nothing came of this. And today in the 32 Thoughts of the podcast by Elliot Friedman, we have an update on this. And this is what Scott McLaughlin put it, because this was a video version. The text version is not out yet. So put this in there, so thank you, Scott. But Elliot says Marco Sturm still has another visit with the Bruins. Possibly he'll be offered the job there, but might not be a done deal just yet. So there's a lot of questions being raised now from this, of where did we get this information from Cam Robinson? Where did you see this? Is something going down? Are we a bit further on the information than what the Bruins would have liked us to know? I think there's a whole bunch of scenarios, but I think the likely option is here, as Scott McLaughlin said, that it is possible that he'll be offered the job in this next meeting, and maybe they want to make it official via a press conference going down or something, and it's going to be interesting to see if we do see at least some sort of movement from the Bruins on their side of saying we're going to have a press conference regarding, a coaching search or whatnot, or if they're going to come out straight away and say it. But I still think, and it still does seem like all signs are pointing towards Marco Sturm still being the head coach of this Boston Bruins team. Now, from what we had, Jay Woodcroft, Mitch Love, and looking at, of course, Marco Sturm, were the 3 coaches that the Bruins had at least multiple conversations with and were closing in on. It did look like Jay Woodcroft was leading the campaign before this. Now, ultimately, I think that's behind us. I think that Marco Sturm still has the leading candidate. And although Don Sweeney said that, and the NHL importance of a coach would still be the main priority, Jay Woodcroft definitely has more of that than Marco Sturm, but Marco Sturm still holds the more important piece of this to me, especially with the development of the younger players that are going to be coming into this NHL roster, and also in the AHL that may pop up for a game or here as well. I think this is more integral to the rebuild, and ultimately will get the wheels going for the years to come with the Boston Bruins. Now, when we do look at the coaching staff here, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that we're going to see, of course, because NHL.com, the Bruins website, has not changed them just yet. But when it does come down to it, if Marco Sturm is the head coach, and I mentioned this in last night's video as well, but I wanted to put it again here in this one because I know a lot of you guys were not awake for that. It really is going to be interesting to see where the coaching circle kind of comes from this. Is Marco Sturm going to bring in his own guys? Is Don Sweeney, Cam Neely, the Bruins organization going to let him really choose who he wants to come in as well? Or are they going to be running, a Chris Kelly, a Joe Sacco assistant, a Jay Leach assistant, associate, or Bob Estes still going to be the goalie coach? I think that latter of the ones will be the option here, but the interesting part of this assistant coach decision will still be coming yet as the head coaching stuff's announced, and I think that's what they're probably going to be interviewing Marco Sturm for, seeing what he wants done in that situation when it does come down to the final results of this, the final look ahead of this decision coming at least in this week, and I still do expect over the next coming days. Now, I do have one more little thing here from David Pastrnak as well before we end this one off, kind of to touch on top of the coaching search here. He had this to say: as the Penguins go through their final round of head coaching interviews this week, DJ Smith and Mitch Love remain the top frontrunners for the Penguins, and meeting with Smith tomorrow or Friday. So it does seem like Mitch Love is out of the equation for the Bruins. He was there kind of still lingering around, but it really was Jay Woodcroft, was Marco Sturm. So I think that Mitch Love, we can count him out for now. So it does seem like we're down to 2 candidates. Jay Woodcroft, I would say, probably at a 15 to 10%. Marco Sturm at this point, in 85 to 90, I would even argue 95% that we will see him as the head coach. So let me know what you think in the comments below here so far about this whole ordeal at this point. I think there's still lots of information that we're missing, and a lot that is going to come out over the next few days, and I would argue hours at this point. So let me know what you think there. But as I mentioned, we do have another very interesting look as the Bruins reports, trades, decisions are starting to kind of heat up once again as we are now heading towards the end of the playoffs here. And a name that's been on the hot table as of late was Marco Rossi. And a very interesting report here coming from Mark D'Amico, from James Murphy, coming out about this. Marco Rossi is very much on the block for the Minnesota Wild, with chatter expected to pick up over the next week. The Flyers, Sabres, Penguins, and Blackhawks are amongst teams that have already shown interest in the field and expected to expand. So when we're looking at this, there's a lot of also reports coming out from Bruins reporters, Bruins analysts, Bruins beat writers, everybody. This is a very good option for the Boston Bruins. Now, you see here, the Bruins are not already in this list of teams that have been in contact with the Minnesota Wild, but you see there at the end from Mark D'Amico, the field is expected to expand. Now, Marco Rossi is a very interesting option, and I think that there's certainly going to be at some point the Bruins having conversation with the Minnesota Wild. There's a few things that may kind of be in the way here for a move like this. And Marco Rossi is a very good player, very, very young, and had a full 82-game season here, which is something that a lot of younger players around the NHL now are not getting, especially someone at the size of Marco Rossi, 5'9", pretty small at this point, but 82 games, 60 points, played a lot of first and second line minutes for the Wild this year with the injuries that they had, but it almost seems like there is a guaranteed trade bound to happen. At 23 years old, putting up 60 points, 82 games, being somebody who has really shown a lot of potential and the Wild seemingly getting rid of, there's no way the Bruins should not jump on this. Now, as I mentioned, there are a few issues here, a few things that the Bruins may consider, and the fact that he's so small is definitely one that they're probably not favored with. But when it comes down to what they're going to be building around him, who they're going to be building around him, and the way that the Bruins have really kind of structured their moves so far from the deadline, it does seem like they're trying to still get a bit bigger, but a bit younger as well. And I think that comes down really to the smarter moves that they had made, getting Fraser Minton, someone who's not small, but not very big. Will Zellers is a smaller player, an absolute incredible shot. And, kind of just building from there. There's a lot of opportunities for the Wild and the Bruins to make a deal here. And we know that the Wild are going to be looking for at least some NHL-ready players. They're going to be looking for some prospects, maybe a picks. And for the first time in quite some time, the Bruins have the available options and the available assets to make something like that work. And it's not every day a guy like Marco Rossi comes around to be available for your team. And he will come at a price. And of course, we're looking at this, which is an option for the Minnesota Wild as well, or the Boston Bruins from the Minnesota Wild as well. When you're looking at the contract, he is an RFA. It would likely come with a signing, and with the market value of 2 years at 4.5, which I think is nearly impossible for Marco Rossi to sign that deal. I think he wants to go long-term, but 7 years at 7.3 is a very interesting number when it does come down to it, because the Bruins have cleared up a lot of cap space. Now, they do have people to sign. They have Morgan Geekie, the real big one here. You have some guys like Mason Lohrei as well, a few other names that are going to be sprinkled around here, but when it comes to a guy like Marco Rossi at 7.7, or 7 by 7.3, sorry, it is a very good contract when it comes down to it, and I think the big concern for this would be if his production remains the same, which I think is another kind of underlying worry for the Boston Bruins here in this instance. And when we look at the lineup, I've been saying this so much. We have so many centers on this lineup. Still no very quality ones, being a number one center guaranteed, but a guy like Marco Rossi, where he was picked, the whole setup that he's been given for the Boston Bruins, he was a number one center for them. He was a number two center for them for a little while. Depending on the injuries, he was in that role, filling that role, and playing that role very, very well. Now, he was playing with Kaprizov for the time that he was healthy. You pair him with David Pastrnak, pair him with Morgan Geekie. That is a dangerous line. So I kind of want to put that in the air, or kind of re-put it back in the air from what a lot of Bruins fans are saying. And I want to know what you guys think as well in the comments below. Do you think Marco Rossi is a great option here? What do you want to see about this whole system, the scheme that the Bruins are running? I think they have so many options, and Marco Rossi is a very interesting one. However, maybe a little bit unlikely due to the concerns they may have with them. So let me know what you think about all of that in the comments below, as well as, of course, the Marco Sturm update that we have from Elliot Friedman. But that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out, though. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.